My dream actually is to be an influencer. An influencer shares with the world that there's a free gift to be had, and that gift is the grace that God has given us. I became that one that can affect change just through my voice and through my music. My name is Douglas D. Davila. I'm from Houston, Texas. I was born in the East End, 2nd Ward, right in the shadow of the skyline of Houston, Texas. God gave me an exceptional gift of music. I didn't find out till later, though. It's a funny story. My first time feeling like music was something that was going to be a part of my life, I was about 6 or 7 years old, and we were having a barbecue. And at the barbecue, they had brought out this big old console. It looked like a big piece of furniture. It was wooden, and it actually played records. It was a record player and an 8-track. And it had the speakers inside of it. And they had dragged it outside and run the cord through the window. And they were playing a record. And this song, I'll never forget the song. And the guy's just singing his heart out. Calla, no digas que me amaste. And just the way the music was progressing through it. I remember I was a kid. We were running around playing tag or something. And I stopped dead in my tracks right in front of the speaker and listened. I was moved to the point that I remember my eyes getting watery. I couldn't really understand what was happening. But that happened to me. As the first time I had the connection, I said to myself, I remember I was a kid and I said, I want to do that. I want to do what that guy's doing.
I've tried and failed to find my place in this world, never knowing what could come down the road. I thought I was all alone till you spoke to me.
A few years later, I was about 12 years old, and I remember it was summertime before school started. I was gonna start junior high school. One of the things that I signed up for was band. So I knew music was gonna be a part of my life. I didn't know how, and I didn't know anything about it. But I remember that night, the music store was bringing in some instruments so that we could see. And they had a beautiful saxophone. I remember it sitting on top of the cafeteria table, and it was very shiny, and it looked so beautiful. And I said, that's what I'm gonna play. I wanna do that, Mom. And I was there with my mom, and I remember she went and asked the gentleman from the store and said, my son wants to play that, so how much is that? And he's like, that's $600, you know? And, you know, we were not wealthy people. And so my mom filled out the little card because he said, oh, there's good news. You know, you just qualify and you can take it and whatever. And my mom filled out, I remember she's filling out the card, and she gave it to the man. And now I look back and reflect, she probably did it just to kind of show that she was willing to do that for me, probably knowing that she wasn't going to qualify for it. And my mom looked at me, and I knew I was going to be a trumpet player. So that's what I started off as a trumpet player.
I know God is with me wherever I go, for He told me so. Now I know.
When I was in junior high, I was able to join the jazz combo in junior high. And when I got to high school, I had grown a lot and gotten really good at playing trumpet. And I remember the band director at my high school, he told me one day when I walked into the class, he said, there was a man here, a gentleman who left a flyer for auditions of a Tex-Mex orchestra, is what the paper said, a Tex-Mex orchestra. I remember my first gig was downtown Houston at the Brewery Tap. And I was so ecstatic because I had played my first gig, And at the end of the night, I remember Tony calling me over and he gives me an envelope. And I was like, what is this envelope? And I opened it and I looked in there, it was $90 in there. And I'm 14 with $90 in my pocket. I was like, wow, I thought I was rich. And that's how my musical career got started. I was a trumpet player, and eventually I moved on to my wife. Side note, she was a saxophone player in the band. So because I was in love with her, and I always I told her, you need to tell me where to put my fingers, So she lent me her sax, and she basically taught me how to play it. And I just took off from there. So I taught myself how to play sax, and that's how I began my musical career in the Tex-Mex industry.
Oh yes, now I know. Oh yes, now I know. Oh yes, now I know.
When I was 1 year old, all I remember is I saw a picture one day and it kind of threw me back. And I said, I didn't have any sense of that. I'm baptized or anything like that. I don't remember ever going to church. We did during family events, maybe a few times going to mass, but not really outside of my dad teaching us the Our Father prayer or something like that. Rachel's my wife. Her mom said, if you're going to marry my daughter, you're going to marry her in church. So what happened was, Father Paulison, hey, we're going to get married. We want to get married. What do I have to do? Well, do you have any of your sacraments? So I went and asked my mom, and she's like, yes, you're baptized. I didn't have First Communion. I didn't have anything. And he says, well, I'm going to turn you over to Sister Irene, and she's going to help you get ready. And I still had no significance, though. I didn't understand the significance of what I was doing. I was only going through the motions so that I could marry my wife. Later, after we had my daughter and my son, that I started to really see God enter my life, to really start noticing Him in my life was at that stage. Rachel and I married in April 1995, and we had our daughter in 1996. I remember her eyes would wander, and she had some problems because something is putting pressure on her optical nerves. And the world stopped. It was just a time of, what is going on? This is too much for us, overwhelming. And I remember being angry, just angry. In the midst of all that, we're getting them baptized. We're coming to church, we're getting them baptized. Father Paulison, who married Rachel and I, he also baptized both of them. 4 years, 5 years, 6 years passes. They're 6 and 7 years old around that. We came and signed them up for catechism. Parents also have to take a class. So we have a retreat for y'all to come to. And I remember we ended up coming to the retreat. And in that retreat, I brought reading material because I was like, there's no way I'm going to be listening to this. And the very first speaker, he gets the microphone and gets it really close to his mouth. And he goes, shh, shh, quiet the world outside. And I remember my eyes started leaking, and I started crying, but I didn't know why. And so Rachel looks over me and she's like, because we're sitting together, I learned that I was a sinner. I learned that I wasn't as beautiful as I thought. And my empire that I was running wasn't running so well. I actually did have a king. And that king, in his kingdom, it runs more beautiful and more perfectly than mine. And all I had to do was submit. And so in that weekend, I started submitting my life and surrendering to God. And it made such a big impact on my life. And my music started to change also. Speaking about a song, I'd never written a song before. I had written one when I was a kid and I was in love with Rachel, and I wrote her a love song. It's really corny, but it was for her, and I was 14 years old. I became that one that can affect change just through my voice and through my music. I can affect change on someone like I had experience when I was a kid, and I heard this man singing, and that's when this all happened. So I wrote this song and we recorded it. By this time, I was in a group called Fiel, which I had become the lead singer of. And I always wanted to sing, but I was always an instrumentalist. I got my shot with that band, and my brothers, I praise God because they were with me in that. And we recorded this song, Porque me dicen que mi rosa nunca va a florecer. Because we recorded that song, it was out there, it's there. And as I moved along into finding God, and my walk with Jesus started to become real and more a bigger part of my life.
Search of you, but I didn't know it was you I was trying to find. It was you I was trying to find. Oh Lord, many times I thought I found you in everything, all created things that were never meant to take your place. Take your place. They were never meant to take your place. Oh Lord.
I have a song called You're the One. You're the One was born out of conversion experience because I realized how I was in the dark and I didn't know that I was searching for God. I realized that there was something missing in my life, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that it was God, that He's the one that fills that void. He's the one that I'm supposed to run to. He's the one that I'm supposed to call on for help. So, the song You're the One was born.
You're the one, you're the only one that can bring healing to my soul.
I remember I was musically asking God, give me a song, Lord, and just this line, I've been wandering in this wilderness in search of you, but I didn't know it was you I was trying to find. I knew that when I sang it, I needed to sing it with everything. And so I wrote it so that the chorus is really, really high and where I can just belt it out, because that's part of my experience, my conversion is in that song, You're the one, you're the only one, the only one that can bring healing to my soul. Because we're like in a scorched desert when we're without God. It's so amazing now when I listen to that song and it still hits me the same way. It's like, how did I ever get along without you, Lord? through all this that I was going through as a young father and going through these trials and tribulations, how did I do it? My only answer and consolation I have is God never left me. He was always with me.
You're the one, you're the only one that can bring healing into my soul. You're the one, you're the only one that can drink for a thirsty soul.
Mercy is a nice one. It's kind of an upbeat song, and it talks about love one another as I have loved you is the main theme of that song. I like it because it has a line in there about the thieves on the cross, the criminals around the cross with Jesus, and how one of them is kind of condemning him, but the other one says, Lord, forgive me, and he says, today you'll be with me in paradise. And there's a line in there about that. So that's a good song to think about.
On the cross, our Lord at Calvary forgave the thief who said, remember me, forever you'll be with me.
Another one is The One True God. That's a song that I took inspiration from one of my musical heroes, Jose Feliciano.
I've heard it said once or twice, how can you believe in a God you've never seen?
Talks about he's the lover of our soul. He took our place. And he's the one true God. In the midst of all this, those are my English side of music. But like I said, I started off in the Tejano music industry. And so that's really at the heart of who I am culturally. And so most of my songs are in Spanish. There's other songs that I've been a part of. Recently, I've been in a collaboration called Amor Tejano.
You are the beginning and the end. You are the lover of my soul. You are the Holy One, the mighty one of Israel.
Revívelo, which means revive it. And Lord, with your love, revive it. There's a couple of other songs. One is called Mi Oración, which is my prayer. And these are all on YouTube as well and all the platforms. And my prayer, God, is that you come and make me who I'm supposed to be, to come into my heart. My favorite, and I left it to the end, is called Testigo de Amor. It's called Witness of Love. The theme of the song is from the story of when Jesus comes and appears to them after being resurrected. He comes to the apostles and Thomas is not there, right? When Thomas does come and Jesus is already gone, they said the Lord was here, and he's like, I wouldn't believe it. I have to stick my hand in his side or in his wounds, right? And this song says, come and see how much I love you. Look at me and tell me who I am. Look at these wounds in my hands.
There was a light in you, John Paul, to a carol of night, the peaceful fight.
John Paul II song. It talks about him and how the angels sing every time a saint is born. Let me tell you, we're all supposed to be saints. Every time we're born, every time one of us is born, the angels are singing, because they didn't only sing for him because he was going to be a saint. They sing for us too because we're supposed to be saints.
Like a shepherd leading the way to the Most High, living in the sky.
We have so many influencers in the world, worldly influencers. I would like to be an influencer that shares with the world that there's a free gift to be had. And that gift is the grace that God has given us. I think most of all, to be an ambassador to the world, that just because we follow Christ, just because we're believers, that we don't have to be prude and we don't live a boring life. Our life is real, it's organic, it has ups and downs, It's beautiful, it's dirty, it's, life happens to everyone. The only difference is we know who we are and whose we are.
You're the one, you're the only one that can bring healing to my soul. You're the one, you're the only one like a drink for a thirsty soul.
Are you searching for purpose of life? Discover your true identity. Stay tuned to Shalom World.